Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, we have an important disclaimer. All topics discussed today are purely speculation and predictions based on theory. Upon Grandmaster Varka's likely release, this video can become outdated and entirely incorrect. If you do enjoy today's video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what kind of future Genshin topics you would like to see covered. Thank you all, and let's get right into the video. Just who is Grandmaster Varka? Well, as the name suggests, he is the current Grand Master of the Knights of Favonius who occupy Mondstadt. Varka is also known as the current Knight of Boreas according to Barbara and Child's quotes about him. He is also described as a very big and strong man who carries a very laid-back and carefree personality. Child describes him as a titan of the Knights of Favonius, while Eula brings up the topic that she even sparred with Varka once, but found due to his relaxed expression and leisurely attitude, he had been holding back against her the whole time. Varka left for an expedition 6 months before the events of the Traveler waking up that we just recently found out was in the northernmost parts of Teyvat, being around the Snezhnaya region of the map. There's currently no news on when he will return home to Mondstadt. Being the Knight of Boreas, we heavily relate Varka to Andreas from the Wolf in the North challenge, who is also known as Lupus Boreas. Andreas possesses both Animo and Cryo elements, which would make us guess that Varka would use one of the two. Because Varka is the head of the Knights of Favonius, which is currently associated with acting Grandmaster Jean, and has a very carefree personality like the Animo Archon Venti, many predict Varka to hold an Animo Vision. I would like to predict the opposite, in that Varka actually wields a Cryo Vision. Now many of you may be questioning that choice, but let me explain why. When we look at the element of Animo, we picture freedom, leisure, and carefree attitudes, which the Animo Archon promotes. Yet for the wielders of an Animo Vision, it seems just the opposite. We have many characters that instead of having freedom, are searching for it, such as Sucrose, who wishes to break free from her shyness, Zhao, who wants to be free of the Yaksha mindset and learn more about people in the world, and Kazuha, who escaped from Inazuma in the search of freedom. On the other half, we have very hardworking characters like Jean and Heizo. Jean is often told she is too hardworking, and instead of searching for freedom herself, it is her peers that wish it upon her to have some leisure time. Although very hardworking, Heizo is also described by Toma as someone who is not the easiest person to get along with, which would be the very opposite of Varka. It makes us wonder if outside of Venti, the criteria for obtaining an Animo Vision is to be on the search for freedom and leisure as opposed to being someone who already has those qualities. When we take a look at the Cryo characters, we see a roster of quirky, serious, yet positive and laid-back personalities. We have the characters like Chongyun, who is described as having an excess of positive energy in him, or Eula, who although demands vengeance, is just her way of showing that she wants to give back to everyone who gives to her. We have the humor of Kaya, someone who lost everything yet still has the ability to play a humorous and lighthearted character, and Rosaria, who although may be portrayed as cold on the outside, Rosaria sees herself as indebted to the people of Mondstadt for their unselfish warmth and goodwill, and she will do anything she can to protect them. The Cryo characters are people that are extremely lighthearted and care for all of those around them. They don't let other people take over their important matters and do what they can for the sake of everyone. This is extremely reminiscent of the description given to Varka. Being described as someone who is extremely strong, we have the ideology of big man, big sword. I don't think anyone would disagree with the idea that Varka's perfect weapon would be a claymore. It is mentioned that Varka was the one who taught Razor how to fight with claymores, promoting this theory even further. As for his signature weapon, because Varka is the current Knight of Boreas and associated with Andreas, we would predict that in-game he would use the 5-star weapon Wolf's Gravestone, held by one of the previous Knights of Boreas. From a story standpoint, the Wolf's Gravestone is currently what marks the resting place for Andreas' spirit in Wolvendal, which means Varka couldn't be carrying around this weapon on his expedition. It is likely that we will see a new 5-star Claymore release along with Varka that would be his current signature weapon. Now, we get into the grinding materials for those looking to ascend Varka to level 90 on day 1, much like I am. Let's start with the character Ascension materials. These consist of the Elemental Gemstone, normal boss drop, local specialties, and a common Ascension material, more commonly known as a mob drop. These can be a lot harder to predict as the Elemental Gemstone and normal boss drop rely heavily on the character's vision. Using our prediction that Varka is a Cryo character, this would mean his Elemental Gemstone would be the Shivada Jade Gemstone. As for a boss drop, recently most characters will fight a boss that can be challenged in their home region or region in which the traveler meets that character. This would imply that for Varka, we would either be fighting the Cryo Regisvine, located in the eastern part of Mondstadt by the Thousand Wind Temple, or the Cryo Hypostasis, located in Dragonspine. It is also entirely possible that a new normal Cryo boss can be introduced with the Dormant Port expansion of Mondstadt, but for now, these are the only Cryo bosses we have that drop both an elemental gemstone and a normal boss drop associated with Mondstadt. We can make two predictions on local specialties for Varka. One would be the wolf hooks, which are currently only associated to Razor. These are located in Wolfendom, and would be chosen once again due to Varka's relation to Andrias as the Knight of Boreas. The other would be Dandelion Seed. This is chosen based on the current speculation that Varka will be released with the Dormant Port and Dandelion Sea expansion of Mondstadt. With the release of new Mondstadt characters with that expansion, someone will likely be using a local specialty found around, if not in, the Dandelion Sea, which would most likely be the seeds of all the dandelions. These local specialties are currently used by Eula and Jean, who are very closely related to Varka as one of the Knights of Favonius' 10 captains and the current acting Grand Master. Mob drops are a very interesting topic. With so many mobs around the world of Teyvat, how could we possibly predict which one will be given to Varka? The most common drop associated with Claymore users at the moment is the Hilichurl masks. These are used as Ascension materials for 4 out of the 10 current Claymore characters, including both Eula and Razor, who we have talked about before in this video. Maybe Hilichurls were one of the mobs Razor and Varka used for further training, as there seems to be a camp of them that settle at the bottom of Wolfendom. The other drop that could be associated with Varka would be the Fatui insignia. Although we don't know if Varka has been fighting the Fatui during his expedition, we could assume that he is not, or else Capitano may have gotten involved while being around the expedition crew. Perhaps there are a lot of insignia lying around the area due to fallen soldiers or leftover scraps. This could be related to how Child ascends the same way. Although we can assume Child is probably fighting some of the Fatui just because he loves to fight, there's no way he's killing that many from a story standpoint to need to collect hundreds of insignia. Continuing with the grinding materials, we have the talent level up materials. These consist of talent books, weekly boss drops, and once again, mob drops. The talent level up book is a very easy prediction, as every Claymore character from Mondstadt uses the same one, the Books of Resistance. It would be hard to assume he gets any other book here, which makes this the greatest choice to grind. As for weekly boss drops, we currently have 2 weekly bosses that occupy Mondstadt, Dvalin and Andrias. Due to Varka's lack of involvement in the first Archon quest that involved Dvalin, it's safe to say that we would be using the boss drops of Andrias as his talent level up material. Once again, as the Knight of Boreas, it would make sense to use the Andrias boss drops as his materials. For the basic mob drops, these would follow suit in which is being used for his character Ascension materials, either the Hilichurl masks or the Fatui insignia. Artifacts are extremely hard to predict for a character when we aren't 100% sure on their element or weapon type. If Varka does happen to be a Cryo Claymore character, Gladiator's Finale or Blizzard Slayer would be optimal choices. Varka could end up being either a Cryo Razor, in which he is better suited for physical damage, and perhaps use Gladiators, Bloodstained Chivalry, or Pale Flame. Or he could end up being a Cryo Deluge, in which he would be better suited for elemental damage from Blizzard Slayer. As for 2-piece sets, it is always safe to go for the sets that offer the increased attack percentage, such as Shimenawa's Reminiscence, Echoes of an Offering, Gladiators, or Vermilion Hereafter. Good stats you'd be looking for on your artifacts would be attack percent Sands, physical or elemental damage percent Goblet, and crit damage or crit rate percent Circlets. Your best substats would be crit damage and rate as always, attack percentage, energy recharge, or elemental mastery. Now that we have analyzed our potential Varka build and what materials we'll need to get him there, we gotta figure out when he will be released. As mentioned earlier in the video, the Dormant Port and Dandelion Sea expansion of Mondstadt seems to be the likely candidate for Varka's release. Getting the northern expansion on the Mondstadt region and meeting Varka at the port would make for a pretty great experience. As to when this expansion will release, it was initially rumored to be during version 2, but instead we got the Chasm. Version 3's expansion seems likely to be Qiaoying Village, as it borders the area between Liyue and Fontaine, much like the Chasm was the connection between Liyue and Sumeru. Although version 4 would likely be an expansion to either Sumeru or Fontaine to connect to Natlin, my prediction is that that is when we will see the Dormant Port expansion to Mondstadt. This would likely be around version 4.5 to 4.7 after we have concluded the Archon quest for Fontaine. As for now, we could only hope for when Varka will release. If the prediction stands correct, we should be expected to see him in about a year and a half, which will give a lot of time to the free-to-play Varka mains to save up like myself. I hope you guys did all enjoy this video. Be sure to let me know what you think Varka will look like or how you expect his build to go in the comment section below, and let me know if you'd like to see more character predictions or other Genshin content in the future. Thank you all for watching, and have a great day. So long, everybody.